The galactic arena was louder than a thunderstorm. Billions of voices from across the stars filled the massive stadium, their cheers shaking the metal walls. It was not just a fight, it was a show of dominance, a place where the strongest warriors of countless empires proved their power before the galaxy. On the arena floor, towering reptilian champions roared, their scales glistening under the bright lights. Armored insectoids slammed their heavy claws together, breaking the ground beneath them. A hulking beast from the ice world of Kern raised his double-headed axe, making the crowd scream even louder. And then a thin human walked onto the sand. His name was Daniel Ward. He looked ordinary, painfully ordinary. No shining armor, no glowing weapons, just a simple dark suit with light body plating. He was not tall, not muscular, not scarred like the others. His brown hair was short, his face calm, almost too calm. The crowd laughed instantly. A Zarn warlord spat from the viewing stands. "That fragile ape will not last a minute." Another alien shouted. Who let him join? Is this entertainment or a joke? Even some of the humans in the audience lowered their heads. To them, Daniel was not a champion. He was a mistake, a sacrifice. On the giant hollow screens, the alien commentator boomed. "Citizens of the galaxy, we begin the grand tournament. Watch as legends clash for honor, for glory, for the Council's favor. But first, look at this. A lone human, Daniel Ward, steps onto the field. Will this soft creature of Earth survive even a single round?" The laughter was endless, but Daniel did not laugh. He did not flinch. His calm, gray eyes scanned the arena, slow and steady, as if he was measuring every stone, every shadow, every opponent. From across the arena floor, the alien warlord Kraz Thor stepped forward. He was huge, 9 feet tall, his skin plated with natural armor, his voice deep enough to rattle the bones of every listener. He raised his war axe high and pointed at Daniel. "This is your champion, human." Kraz Thor growled into the live broadcast. "This weakling, this stick of bone, he will bleed before he takes a step. Watch, Galaxy. Watch how easily I crush the pride of Earth." The crowd cheered wildly. Daniel looked at Kraz Thor for only a moment. Then, softly, he whispered words that the cameras just barely caught. "They will regret underestimating me." The sound was lost under the roar of the crowd, but those close enough to hear shivered without knowing why. The match had not even started, but something about Daniel unsettled the air. He was not sweating. His breathing was calm. His eyes were too sharp, too steady, like a predator that had already chosen where to strike. In the human stands, officers from Earth's delegation whispered nervously. "Why did command send him? He doesn't even look trained." Another officer replied in a low voice. Orders were clear. Daniel Ward was chosen. "We don't question it." But even they looked doubtful. The announcer's voice echoed again. "Contestants, prepare. The first round will begin. Blood will stain the sand. Glory will belong to the strongest." Around Daniel, the alien champions flexed their muscles, roared at the crowd, and banged their weapons on the ground. The air vibrated with their power. Daniel stood silent, still as stone. For the audience, it was boring. For the aliens, it was pathetic. For Daniel, it was necessary. He had no need to perform, no need to roar or shout. His mind was already working. Every step of Kraz Thor, every twitch of the reptilian fighter on his left, the sharpness of the insectoid claws on his right, the distance to the arena wall, the light shining in from above. Every detail burned into his brain like a map. Nobody saw the calculation. Nobody cared. They only saw a weak man standing in front of monsters. High above the arena, the Galactic Council watched from their golden seats. Powerful rulers of empires leaned forward, their jeweled robes sparkling. One counselor, an ancient being with crystal skin, chuckled. "Humans are fools. They send us prey instead of predators." Another nodded. "Yes, perhaps they are finished as a species. This one proves it." But a third counselor, older and quieter, narrowed his glowing eyes. "Or perhaps they're hiding something." His words were ignored. The match countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The ground shook as Kraz Thor slammed his axe down and roared. His voice was thunder, echoing across the galaxy broadcast. Daniel did not move. The crowd screamed for blood. They wanted a slaughter. They wanted to see the fragile human broken. But Daniel's calm face never changed. Not a flicker of fear. Not a sign of panic. Only silence. And for the first time, just before the battle even started, a ripple of unease passed through the crowd. Some aliens frowned. Some leaned forward. Why did he look so calm? Why did his eyes look like that? The laughter began to fade into murmurs. Somewhere deep in the shadows of the arena, a veteran alien soldier whispered words that would later echo across the stars. The most dangerous human is always the one you overlook. The round had not yet begun, but the legend of Daniel Ward had already started. The signal blared. A deep metallic horn echoed across the galactic arena. The first round had begun. The crowd exploded with cheers, their voices crashing together like a storm. Billions were watching the broadcast from every corner of the galaxy. Everyone expected the same thing, that Daniel Ward, the thin human, would die instantly. Krasthor, the alien warlord, charged forward. He was a monster in size and strength, armored skin glinting like steel under the lights. His war axe cut through the air, heavy enough to crush a boulder in one swing. The ground shook with every step of his massive legs. Die ape, Krasthor roared. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for blood. But Daniel did not meet the attack head-on. He moved sideways, calm, precise, almost too casual. The axe smashed into the sand where he had been standing a second earlier. The shockwave sent dust flying high into the air. The aliens laughed again. He's running. Coward. But then something strange happened. Daniel's steps were not desperate. He was not stumbling or panicked. He was controlled, balanced. His eyes followed every movement of Krasthor like a hunter studying prey. The warlord roared again, swinging the axe in a wide arc. Daniel ducked, letting the weapon whistle past his head. In that split second, his hand moved like lightning. He struck, not with strength, but with precision. His fingers jabbed into a nerve cluster just under Krasthor's armored ribs. The alien howled, stumbling back. The crowd fell silent. Nobody understood what had just happened. A thin human had touched a warlord once and made him stagger. Krasthor's rage exploded. He swung wildly, smashing the ground, breaking stone, tearing the air with furious roars. Daniel kept moving. He wasted no energy. Each dodge was a single step, a tilt of the head, a shift of the body. He was not fighting for show. He was fighting like a man who had already studied every possible move his enemy could make. The commentators were stunned. What is this? The human does not strike with power. He simply avoids. He makes the warlord look slow. The crowd started to quiet. The laughter turned into whispers. Finally, Krasthor lifted his axe for a killing blow, roaring so loud the arena shook. He brought the weapon down with all his strength, aiming to split Daniel in half. At the last possible moment, Daniel stepped aside. The axe buried itself deep in the ground, stuck for just a heartbeat. That was all Daniel needed. He moved in close, his body low, and struck with sharp precision. One strike to the knee joint, another to the throat, a final push against the axe's handle to twist the warlord off balance. Krasthor fell to one knee, choking. The galaxy gasped. A warlord who had won 100 battles, brought to the ground by a human's bare hands. Daniel did not finish him. Not yet. He stepped back, calm as ever, letting Krasthor struggle to his feet. The camera zoomed in on Daniel's face. No anger, no fear, just cold focus. The commentator shouted into the broadcast. Impossible. The human is still standing. He bleeds not. He fears not. And the warlord has fallen. Billions of eyes across the galaxy widened. The words spread instantly across comm channels, across fleets, across empires. The human is winning. In the stands, alien leaders shifted uncomfortably. This is not luck, one muttered. Another growled. He fights with knowledge. He knows where to strike. Only the elder counselor with crystal skin spoke calmly. I warned you. The most dangerous one is always the one you overlook. Back in the arena, Krasthor rose again, rage burning hotter than ever. Blood trickled from his throat wound. He gripped his axe with both hands, roaring so loudly that the sound broke the silence. Daniel stood still, waiting. The warlord charged. The arena floor cracked under his weight. The axe flashed through the air one last time. And then it was over. Daniel slipped inside the swing, grabbed the axe handle with perfect timing, twisted it free, and slammed the blunt end into Thor's skull. The giant crashed into the ground, unconscious. Silence. The galaxy froze. The commentators could not speak. The crowd could not scream. For the first time in centuries, a human had defeated one of the strongest warlords alive, and he had done it without breaking a sweat. Daniel slowly dropped the axe to the ground. He looked around the arena, his eyes scanning the billions of faces watching. And then, softly, almost too quiet for the microphones to catch, he said, "First blood." The words echoed like thunder. The crowd erupted, not with laughter this time, but with fear, shock, and awe. Some cheered wildly, others cursed in rage, but everyone understood one truth. The human was no weakling. The human was no joke. The human was something else entirely. In the human delegation stands, officers stared in disbelief. "That was surgical," another whispered. "This is why command chose him." But none of them spoke louder, because they knew the galaxy was listening. High in the council seats, the leaders looked at each other with unease. "This cannot be allowed to continue," one hissed. "If this human wins again, Earth will gain influence," another growled. "Perhaps we made a mistake letting them join the tournament," the crystal-skinned elder said, voice grim. The seeds of fear had been planted. As Thor was dragged from the arena floor, unconscious and humiliated, Daniel stood alone under the blinding lights. The crowd roared with 1,000 different voices, some cheering, some booing, some whispering warnings to their empires. But Daniel only stood there, calm and silent. Inside his mind, one thought repeated, "They will regret underestimating me." And across the stars, countless watchers began to understand that this thin, quiet human was not weak at all. He was dangerous, very dangerous. And the tournament had only just begun. The arena had never been so quiet after a match. Billions of viewers across the galaxy sat frozen in front of their hollow screens. The warlord Thor, a champion who had crushed dozens of rivals, lay defeated in the sand. And it was not by another beast, not by another monster, but by a human, a thin, calm, ordinary-looking human named Daniel Ward. The laughter was gone. In its place came whispers. "Did you see how he moved?" one alien asked in disbelief. "He fought like he already knew the warlord's weakness," another replied. A third voice, nervous and low, whispered the words that spread like fire across every communication channel. "The most dangerous human is always the one you overlook." That night, the arena's endless celebration did not feel the same. Normally, after battles, alien champions drank, laughed, and told stories of their victories. But now, many of them sat silent, their eyes drifting to the human's corner. Daniel did not join the feast. He stayed alone, sitting cross-legged on the cold floor of his quarters. His breathing was steady. His hands were still. He had no need for cheers or celebrations. He had come here for something bigger, and he knew the galaxy was starting to notice. In the shadows of the council chamber above the arena, leaders of great empires met in private. "This cannot be chance," hissed the scaled warlord. The human disabled Thor as if he had done it 1,000 times. "It was not strength. It was calculation," said another, a tall insectoid queen. "He struck the exact point. He wasted no effort. That is not normal." One of the counselors leaned back, eyes glowing faintly. "Perhaps Earth has been hiding their true warriors. Perhaps the humans are not as weak as they claim." The room fell into silence. None wanted to admit the truth out loud, but all of them felt the same uneasy fear. Across the galaxy, news networks replayed the fight again and again. The images burned into every mind. Daniel stepping aside from the warlord's axe. Daniel striking at the exact spot. Daniel whispering "first blood" as the giant collapsed. Commentators argued on broadcasts. It was luck, some insisted. No, others countered that was skill. And then one quiet voice said the thing that chilled everyone. If one human can do this, what happens if there are thousands like him? Back in the human delegation quarters, Daniel's fellow officers whispered about him. Command sent him for a reason, one muttered. But why not tell us what he really is? Another asked. No one had answers. When Daniel finally walked into their room, silence fell instantly. His calm gray eyes scanned them all, then moved away as if they were already forgotten. You should rest, one officer said nervously. Daniel only nodded and replied in a flat, steady tone. Rest is a weapon too. Tomorrow will be harder. And with that, he closed his eyes and seemed to fall asleep instantly, as if the galaxy's fear meant nothing to him. Meanwhile, alien spies dug into his past. They searched Earth's records, military files, everything they could find. Most reports listed Daniel Ward as ordinary, a soldier, yes, but not famous, not decorated, not a hero. But then they found fragments, pieces of information hidden deep inside classified human archives. A unit that had no name, missions that had no witnesses, operations where enemies vanished, battles ended before they began, assassinations carried out so silently that nobody even realized who was responsible. The aliens shivered as they pieced it together. Daniel Ward had been part of something secret, something humans did not want the galaxy to know about. The next morning, the tournament continued. Other battles filled the arena. Massive beasts clashed, insectoid soldiers fought with razor claws, reptilian champions ripped each other apart. But the crowd's eyes were different now. They no longer cheered with the same joy. They whispered, waiting for the next time Daniel would step onto the sand. When he finally appeared, the entire stadium went silent. Even before the fight began, the fear was clear. His new opponent, a giant from the volcanic world of Craxus, roared and beat his chest, fire spitting from his mouth. But his eyes betrayed him. He was not roaring from pride. He was roaring to hide the tremor in his hands. He had seen the recording of Kraz Thor's fall, and he was afraid. The fight was short. The Craxus giant attacked with brute strength, his fists heavy enough to crush stone. But Daniel moved as if he had seen it all before. He struck once, twice, 3 times, each attack precise, clean, controlled. The giant fell in less than a minute. The crowd did not cheer. They did not laugh. They only whispered louder. Impossible. No human should fight like this. What are they hiding? After the fight, as Daniel walked calmly back to his quarters, alien leaders watched him with narrowed eyes. He is not just a soldier, one said. He is a weapon, another growled. A weapon trained for war far beyond anything we imagined. The crystal-skinned elder spoke softly, but his voice carried like a blade through the room. You thought humans were weak. You thought them fragile. But you forgot the oldest truth of war. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is not the loudest, not the strongest, not the one who roars. Sometimes it is the one who waits, who watches, who strikes when you least expect. The council fell silent. For the first time, the galaxy was no longer laughing at humans. They were afraid. That night, in the shadows of the arena, alien mercenaries met in secret. If he wins again, one growled, Earth will rise in power. Then we cannot allow him to continue, another hissed. We must act before it is too late. And so the whispers of fear turned into whispers of conspiracy. Daniel Ward had shaken the galaxy with 2 victories. Now, powerful enemies were preparing to destroy him, not just on the arena floor, but outside of it. And still, Daniel sat alone in his room, calm as ever, eyes closed, breathing steady. He knew what was coming, and he was ready. The galaxy was no longer laughing. After 2 battles, Daniel Ward was undefeated. He had not shouted. He had not boasted. He had not even looked tired. He had simply moved with cold precision, studying each opponent as if he had read their entire lives before the fight began. And now, the whispers of fear had turned into something else, plans. In the shadows of the council chambers, powerful leaders argued. If we let this continue, Earth will gain respect. They will gain fear. A reptilian general hissed. Fear turns into power. Power turns into influence. An insectoid queen snapped. "We must end him," another said. So they plotted. The rules of the tournament were sacred. One warrior against one warrior. But fear was stronger than honor. The council quietly gave the order. Daniel would face 3 opponents at once. The crowd would be told it was a special test, a sudden change to make the games more exciting. But the truth was simple. This was no test. It was an execution. The next day, when Daniel stepped into the arena, the air felt heavier than before. The crowd was restless. Billions of eyes watched, waiting to see if the human could survive again. The announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. "Today, for the first time in centuries, we offer a trial of chaos. Not 1, not 2, but 3 champions will enter the sand against the human." The crowd gasped. Even the alien audience, hungry for blood, felt the wrongness of it. But when they looked at Daniel, they saw no anger, no shock, no fear. He simply tilted his head slightly, as if he had expected this all along. His opponents entered. The first was a massive reptilian brute with spiked armor, wielding a chain blade dripping with poison. The second was a lithe insectoid, fast as lightning, her claws sharper than steel. The third was a hulking machine creature, half flesh and half metal, its glowing eyes burning red. Together, they looked unstoppable. The crowd roared with anticipation. "This time, the human dies," someone shouted. But Daniel stood still, hands loose at his sides, eyes sharp as ever. The horn sounded. The fight began. The reptilian brute charged first, chain blade whipping through the air. The insectoids circled fast, claws slashing. The machine creature stomped forward, each step shaking the ground. 3 enemies, 3 directions, 1 human. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for blood. But Daniel moved like water. He stepped inside the reptilian swing, letting the chain whip past his shoulder. His hand snapped out, grabbing the brute's wrist, twisting it until bones cracked. Before the reptilian could scream, Daniel shoved him forward, straight into the path of the insectoid's claws. The insectoid slashed, missing Daniel entirely, and drove her blades deep into her own ally's back. The brute howled in pain and collapsed. The galaxy gasped. The insectoid shrieked in rage and spun, her claws flashing. But Daniel was already moving, his body low, fast, controlled. He grabbed a fallen blade from the sand and struck once, clean, efficient. The clawed warrior froze, then fell. 2 down. The machine creature roared and charged, fury burning in its glowing eyes. Its massive fist smashed the ground, sending shockwaves through the arena. Sparks flew as it swung again and again. Daniel dodged each strike with inches to spare. His movements were not desperate, they were patient. He was watching, waiting. And then, when the machine overextended, Daniel struck. He leapt onto its arm, ran along the metal limb like a shadow, and drove the stolen blade into a joint at the back of its neck. Sparks exploded. The machine shuddered, screamed in a metallic roar, then collapsed into the sand with a thunderous crash. The crowd fell silent. 3 opponents, 3 champions, all defeated by 1 human. For a long moment, the galaxy said nothing. Then the whispers returned, louder than ever. He used them against each other. He knew exactly where to strike. This is not fighting. This is strategy. And finally, one chilling word spread through the comm channels of every empire. Predator. In the council chamber above, the leaders were furious. This was supposed to end him, the insectoid queen screeched. Instead, it has made him more dangerous, the reptilian general spat. He does not fight like us, another whispered. He does not fight for pride or for show. He fights only to win. The crystal-skinned elder leaned forward, his voice calm but heavy. You cannot break him with numbers. Every extra enemy only gives him more weapons to use. The chamber fell silent. None wanted to admit it, but the truth was clear. The trap had failed, and the galaxy's fear was only growing stronger. Back in his quarters, Daniel sat alone, cleaning the blade he had taken from the arena. His fellow humans stared at him in silence, unsure whether to cheer or to fear him themselves. Finally, one officer whispered, "How did you do it?" 3 against 1, how? Daniel looked up, his gray eyes calm and cold. "War is not about strength," he said simply. "It is about survival. On Earth, we learned that long ago." Then he set the blade aside, closed his eyes, and went silent again. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. None of them doubted anymore. Daniel Ward was not just a man. He was a weapon. That night, the galaxy did not sleep. The broadcasts repeated endlessly. Billions of voices argued, debated, and whispered in fear. One sentence echoed across the stars. "The most dangerous human is always the one you overlook." And now, every empire wondered the same thing. If one overlooked human could do this, what would happen if Earth sent more? The galactic arena shook with chaos. Thousands of alien voices screamed, some in anger, others in fear, many in pure disbelief. The giant warlord Krosthor, who had crushed dozens of champions, now lay broken on the ground. His massive body was still breathing, but his spirit was shattered. And standing over him was Daniel Ward. The human looked untouched. His breathing was calm. No blood, no sweat. He had fought like it was nothing. The broadcast spread across the galaxy. Billions of aliens who had laughed at humans now stared at their screens in silence. "Impossible," one insectoid general whispered in the stands. "That ape should have died in the first blow." But Daniel had not only survived, he had destroyed. The council in shock. High above the arena, in the private chambers, members of the Galactic Council argued loudly. "This is wrong," shouted a lizard noble. "Humans are weak. They cannot fight like this. Something is unnatural." "Maybe he cheated," said another. But one elder, with long silver skin, shook his head slowly. "No, that was not cheating. That was skill. That was control. That was something far more dangerous." The elder's eyes narrowed. "We overlooked the humans, and now we see the truth too late." Daniel's silence. Down in the arena, medics rushed to carry away Krosthor. The massive warlord glared at Daniel with hate and shame as he was lifted away. Daniel only gave him a short nod, as if to say, "You fought well, but you lost." The crowd waited for him to celebrate, to roar in victory like the other champions had done. But Daniel did nothing. He simply walked back to his corner, sat down, and closed his eyes. That silence scared them more than anything else. Because silence meant control. Silence meant confidence. Silence meant he had not even shown his full strength. The whisper in the dark. Later that night, while the other fighters celebrated or healed, Daniel sat alone. His hands were steady. His mind was calm. A shadow approached him. It was an alien official from the council. "You must tell me," the alien hissed. "What are you? How did you defeat Krosthor?" Daniel slowly opened his eyes. His voice was quiet but sharp. "I didn't defeat him with strength. I defeated him with patience. I watched his movements. I learned his rhythm. And when the time came, I struck where he was weakest." The alien frowned. "That is not normal. No species learns so fast. No species adapts so quickly." Daniel stood, his shadow long in the dim light. "That's what humans are. We adapt. We learn. We survive." The alien stepped back, shivering. The next challenge. The tournament was not over. The next round came, and the announcers called the names. Daniel would face a machine champion from the Vare Collective, a towering robot made of living metal, its core glowing with energy. It had no fear, no mercy. The crowd roared. Many thought, this will finally be the end of the human. But Daniel only stretched his hands and walked into the arena with the same calm steps. The machine's voice boomed. "You are flesh. I am eternal metal. You cannot win." Daniel tilted his head slightly. "We'll see." The battle of man and machine. The fight began with a blast of light. The machine struck with lasers and steel fists. The ground cracked under its power. Daniel dodged again and again, moving like water, flowing with the rhythm. Each time the machine attacked, Daniel studied it. Each second, he was learning. The crowd screamed as Daniel avoided a beam that could have cut a mountain in half. Then, with speed faster than the eye, he closed the distance and struck at the machine's leg joint. Sparks flew. The machine staggered. "Impossible," it said in a flat voice. "You analyze my design in seconds." Daniel said nothing. He only moved again, faster this time, striking weak point after weak point until the giant machine collapsed in a storm of smoke and sparks. The galaxy holds its breath. When the dust cleared, Daniel stood once more, calm and unshaken. 2 champions had fallen. 2 legends were broken. The arena was silent. Billions of eyes across the galaxy were now filled not with laughter, but with fear. This was no ordinary human. This was something else. In the council chamber, the silver-skinned elder whispered, "Now I understand. The most dangerous human is not the strongest, not the loudest, not the biggest. It is the one you never see coming, the one you overlook." He looked down at Daniel Ward. And now the galaxy has overlooked him for too long. Suspense ending. Daniel looked up at the high seats where the council sat. His calm eyes locked with theirs. And for the first time, he smiled. The smile was not joy. It was not pride. It was a warning. Something deeper was coming. The galaxy finally realized humans were not weak. Humans were the storm waiting in silence. And Daniel Ward was just the beginning. The galactic arena was silent. Thousands of alien voices, once filled with laughter and mockery, now whispered in fear. Daniel Ward stood alone at the center. His thin frame, his quiet face, his ordinary look, everything about him screamed weakness. And yet, around him, the ground was broken, the air heavy with the energy of fallen champions. The last battle was done. Krosthor, the mighty warlord of the Creel Empire, lay unconscious at Daniel's feet. The crowd that had once laughed at the human now stared, unable to believe their eyes. The great announcer's voice trembled. "Victor, Daniel Ward of Earth." A roar went through the arena, but it was not cheering. It was panic. It was fear. Aliens scrambled in the stands. Some shouted that this was impossible. Others whispered of ancient human legends. The humans were not just strong, but something worse. Something unpredictable. The council leaders, seated in their golden balcony, looked at each other with unease. The Vraxis prime minister hissed, "We must investigate. No human should possess this level of skill." The Zarn overlord growled, "No. We should end him now, before his kind spreads fear across the galaxy." Yet no one moved. Daniel's calm eyes scanned the crowd, and even the most powerful warriors felt their hearts freeze. Krosthor groaned on the ground. Slowly, he forced himself to sit up. His massive reptilian frame shook with rage. "You human," he spat. "You tricked us. You hid your strength." Daniel looked down at him, his voice quiet but cutting through the noise. "I didn't hide anything. You just refused to see." The words echoed across the arena like thunder. The cameras zoomed in. Across the galaxy, billions of viewers watched the thin human stand taller than the greatest warlord. Some aliens switched off their screens in fear. Others recorded the moment, knowing history was being written. On Earth, in hidden command centers, human leaders exchanged silent looks. They knew this was dangerous. Daniel had shown too much. The galaxy would never forget now. But Daniel had always known. That was why he came. Krosthor roared again, his pride broken, but his fury alive. He tried to charge, but his body collapsed. His strength was gone. The healers rushed in, dragging him away. The announcer tried to bring order. "The tournament has ended. The human is the undefeated champion." For the first time in centuries, a human stood above all. Daniel raised his hand, not in victory, but in silence. "I didn't come here for glory," he said. His voice was soft, yet every microphone carried it across the galaxy. "I came to remind you of something." The crowd leaned forward. "Humans are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the biggest, but we're the ones you always overlook. And that," he said, his eyes hard, "is your greatest mistake." Silence. Thousands of alien races, and not a single one could argue. The council leaders whispered in panic. If one ordinary-looking human could destroy their greatest champions, what could a full human army do? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said Daniel was no soldier, but only a common man trained in secret. Others believed all humans were like him, smiling on the surface, monsters underneath. Fear grew. When Daniel finally walked out of the arena, nobody stopped him. Even the guards who once mocked him stepped aside, their eyes lowered. Ships from dozens of empires followed him, but none dared attack. In the shadows of the arena halls, a council officer tried to confront him. "What are you?" the alien demanded. Daniel only smiled. "I'm a human you never noticed." Then he walked away, leaving the alien trembling. That night, across the galaxy, broadcasts replayed the moment over and over. Daniel standing calm, crossed on the ground, the words you just refused to see. On planets where humans were laughed at, aliens grew quiet. On worlds where humans were feared, leaders prepared new strategies. The balance of the galaxy had shifted. Daniel returned to his quarters. Alone, he sat by the small window, staring at the stars. He wasn't smiling. Victory wasn't joy, it was warning. He whispered to himself, "Now they know. Now they'll watch us closer." But deep down, he also knew something else. Humans had never needed recognition. They thrived in the shadows, overlooked, underestimated. And as long as the galaxy kept making that mistake, humanity would always have the upper hand. Back in the arena, the council gathered in secret. The Zarn overlord slammed his clawed fist on the table. "This cannot stand. If humans are this dangerous, they must be controlled." But another voice, trembling, replied, "No, they cannot be controlled. Did you not see? The most dangerous human is not the one with power. It's the one you never notice." The chamber fell silent. And so the story of Daniel Ward spread across every star system. To some, he was a warning. To others, he was a nightmare. To humans, he was simply proof of what they had always known. The most dangerous human is always the one you overlook.